I'm not going to accept that answer, because if you can't commit that those FBI agents will be protected from political retribution, we can't accept you as FBI director.
All FBI employees will be protected against political retribution.
Those individuals deserve to be protected from Trump retribution. That was your first tweet. That's your whole statement.
Well,
you won't stand behind your own statements made in tweets, countless of them. As a matter of fact, as you put it to Steve Bannon on his show, then we went into a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, and put it as a song. And the rest of that, now releasing it. He's the one who sprayed U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day. Cater admitted his violence. He pleaded guilty to assaulting assaulting a political officer, a police officer. Do you believe that Julian Cater was a political prisoner?
Senator, I'm not familiar with his case. You seem to know a lot more about it than I do. And as I've said repeatedly, I will always utilize my resources to help Americans in need.
You now want us to believe you don't know who they are?
No part of that song or anything I've done in my 16 years of government service glorifies or advocates for violence against law enforcement. And the fact that you would be willing to say that in front of these people in the American audience shows how much of a divide we actually have.
That was your first test. You failed it. Senator Richard Blumenthal delivered a blistering challenge to Kash Patel over political retaliation at the FBI, then confronted him over his role in promoting the January 6th prison choir.
The Department of Justice was firing more than a dozen lawyers who worked with the Special Counsel Jack Smith simply because they were involved in that case. You've committed that the FBI will not be politicized. So here's your first test. Will you commit that you will not tolerate the firing of the FBI agents who worked with the Special Counsel's office on these investigations?
Senator, I appreciate the time to visit with you.
It is a yes or no answer, and it is your first test.
Senator, every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments.
And I'm not going to accept that answer, because if you can't commit that those FBI agents will be protected from political retribution, we can't accept you as FBI director.
All FBI employees will be protected against political retribution.
Those individuals deserve to be protected from Trump retribution. That was your first test. You failed it.
This question about political retaliation became more than a hypothetical. In February 2026, FBI Director Kash Patel dismissed agents who had worked on investigations involving Donald Trump, including the classified documents investigation and the 2020 election investigation. Several former agents later filed lawsuits alleging they were unlawfully terminated because of their investigative assignments. Patel has rejected the characterization that the FBI is being politically purged.
All FBI employees should be protected?
That is a test of professional diligence, because it is the measure of whether you will stand up and say no to the president if he gives you an unlawful or illegal order. Let me turn to the J6 choir. You know who the J6 prison choir is, don't you?
It's been referenced earlier, yes.
And you know about the song that, in fact, you produced, you promoted, and you used to, as you put it, raise awareness and support for the political prisoners still locked in jail. Those J6 choir, were they political prisoners?
I don't know everyone in the J6 choir.
That's what you said.
That's
correct?
Not how I read it, Senator.
This is your tweet. That's your whole statement.
Well,
you won't stand behind your own statements made in tweets, countless of them. As a matter of fact, as you put it to Steve Bannon on his show, then we went into a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, and put it as a song, now releasing it exclusively in the War Room. That was the J6 prison choir song.
And all proceeds were given away to charity to help families
And you
in
called
need.
them political prisoners. Julian Cater, do you know what he did?
I don't know who that is, Senator.
Well, he's one of the J6 prison choir.
You seem to know more about it than I
Identified
do.
in a court filing. And you're saying now you don't know who he is? You glorified him and the rest of that choir? He's the one who sprayed U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day. Cater admitted his violence. He pleaded guilty to assaulting assaulting a political officer, a police officer. Do you believe that Julian Cater was a political prisoner?
Senator, I'm not familiar with this case. You seem to know a lot more about it than I do. And as I've said repeatedly, I will always utilize my resources to help Americans in need, which is what I was trying to do here. And I've never once advocated for political violence or violence against law enforcement.
The J6 choir issue did not end with this exchange. During the confirmation process, Senate Judiciary Democrats formally challenged Patel's testimony about the recording. They pointed to his earlier public statements in which he acknowledged helping produce and promote the song, while arguing that his testimony before the committee was inconsistent with those statements. The controversy became one of the issues Democrats cited in opposing his nomination.
Ryan Nichols. Ryan Nichols also pleaded guilty to assaulting a police officer. He was one of the J6 choir. He pushed the crowd against officers defending a door to the Capitol and sprayed officers with pepper spray. Was Ryan Nichols a political prisoner?
Same answer, Senator.
How about Jordan Mink, another member of the J6 choir?
I don't know who he is.
James McGrew, a political prisoner?
I don't know who that is.
James McGrew pushed and struck officers and launched a handrail toward them. And you glorified him. You promoted and produced a song to raise money for them. And you now want us to believe you don't know who they are?
No part of that song or anything I've done in my 16 years of government service glorifies or advocates for violence against law enforcement. And the fact that you would be willing to say that in front of these people in the American audience shows how much of a divide we actually have to restore a law enforcement that is constitutionally based, de-weaponized, and depoliticized. You have my commitment to do that. In your office, we had a lot of common ground. I'm committed to working with you on things like Section 230 and making sure the citizens of Connecticut aren't pillaged by Chinese fentanyl.
I welcome your statement, Mr. Patel, but it doesn't answer my question, and it doesn't go to your credibility in denying you know who these people are after, and I have to say, in this tweet and in others, I have a raft of them. I'm going to ask the chairman that they be made a part of the record. If there's no objection.
Without objection.
You glorified, you promoted, you supported these individuals. Ronald Sadlin, he struck an officer in the head, hand, and shoulders and grabbed another officer. Was he a political prisoner?
I don't know who that is, Senator.
Well, the simple fact is that you knew about the J6 choir. You knew what they did in assaulting and endangering police officers who sought to defend the Capitol on that day, were severely injured, and some, as a consequence, died. I think the FBI deserves better. The men and women in the FBI put their lives on the line every day. I've worked with them as United States Attorney for 4.5 years, and then as Attorney General off and on for 20 years. I've admired them for the 14 years that I've been in this body. I think they deserve better.
FBI Director Kash Patel remains in charge of the Bureau, and his tenure has recently drawn attention for an unusual expansion of international law enforcement cooperation. In August 2026, Patel disclosed that the FBI has developed new working relationships with China and Russia focused on transnational crimes, including cyber fraud, fentanyl trafficking, child exploitation, and fugitive investigations. The cooperation has included exchanges of law enforcement personnel, intelligence, sharing, and joint operations. One of the most significant recent operations involved FBI cooperation with Chinese and Dubai authorities in Operation Sand Dollar, a May operation targeting a cyber scam network in Dubai. Reuters reported that the operation resulted in roughly 300 arrests and $300 million in seized assets, while the FBI has also worked with Chinese authorities on cases involving fentanyl-related activity and a multinational child exploitation network. Patel has defended the cooperation as narrowly focused and subject to counterintelligence safeguards, while former FBI officials have raised concerns about the risks of giving officials from U.S. adversary nations access to American government facilities and information. Against that current backdrop, Senator Richard Blumenthal's confrontation with Patel during his confirmation hearing focused on a very different question. Could Patel keep the FBI independent from political retaliation? Blumenthal began by pointing to the Justice Department's decision to fire lawyers who had worked with Special Counsel Jack Smith. He then told Patel that the Bureau's commitment to remaining non-political would face an immediate test. His question was direct. Would Patel guarantee that FBI agents who had worked with Smith's investigation would be protected from political retaliation? Patel did not give the specific answer Blumenthal demanded. Instead, he said every FBI employee would be held to the same standard and that nobody would be terminated because of a particular case. Blumenthal rejected that response. His argument was that saying every employee would be treated equally was not the same as promising that agents involved in politically sensitive investigations would be protected from retaliation. He wanted Patel to explicitly commit that those agents would not be punished simply because they had participated in investigations involving Donald Trump. For Blumenthal, this was a test of whether Patel would be willing to tell the president no if the president issued an unlawful order. Patel responded that FBI employees would be protected against political retaliation and repeatedly emphasized his commitment to a law enforcement agency that was constitutional, de-weaponized, and depoliticized. But Blumenthal was not satisfied. The senator then shifted to one of the most controversial parts of Patel's public record, his involvement with the J6 prison choir. Patel had promoted the Recording Justice for All, a song featuring Donald Trump reciting the Pledge of Allegiance alongside a recording by January 6 defendants. Patel had described the project as raising awareness and support for people he characterized as political prisoners. Blumenthal asked Patel whether the people in the choir were political prisoners. Patel responded that he did not know everyone involved. That answer immediately became a problem for Blumenthal. The senator produced Patel's own public statements and argued that Patel had promoted the project while now claiming not to know who the participants were. Blumenthal then began naming individual January 6 defendants. He brought up Julian Kater, whom Blumenthal identified as one of the participants and accused of assaulting Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. He asked Patel whether Kater was a political prisoner. Patel said he was not familiar with Kater's case. Blumenthal then mentioned Ryan Nichols and other January 6 defendants, again asking whether they should be considered political prisoners. Patel gave essentially the same response. He did not know their individual cases. That created the central credibility clash. Blumenthal's argument was that Patel had promoted and produced a song supporting the January 6 prisoners, yet could not identify or discuss the records of the people whose cause he had publicly supported. Patel's defense was that the project was intended to help Americans in need, and that nothing he had done during his government career advocated violence against police or political violence. That distinction is important. The controversy did not establish that Patel personally advocated violence against law enforcement. His position was that his charitable activity was being misrepresented, and that his purpose was to support people and families he believed needed assistance. But Blumenthal was asking a different question. He was questioning judgment and credibility. If someone is seeking to become FBI director, should that person carefully investigate the backgrounds of people associated with a project before publicly promoting it? And if some participants had been convicted of assaulting police officers, does publicly portraying them as political prisoners risk minimizing the seriousness of their conduct? That is the stronger issue raised by the exchange. Patel repeatedly emphasized his support for law enforcement. Blumenthal argued that supporting law enforcement also means recognizing the seriousness of attacks against police officers, including those committed on January 6th. The senator then returned to his original concern, FBI independence. He argued that the Bureau's agents deserve a director who will protect them if political pressure comes from the White House. Patel answered that every FBI employee would be held to the same standard, and that his objective was to restore a constitutional, non-political FBI. That promise is particularly important when viewed against Patel's current tenure. Today, Patel is overseeing an FBI that is pursuing an unusually broad international law enforcement strategy, including cooperation with countries such as China and Russia on specific criminal investigations. That creates a different but related test of leadership, whether the director can distinguish law enforcement cooperation from political relationships and maintain institutional safeguards, even when dealing with governments that the United States considers strategic adversaries. The current FBI-China and FBI-Russia relationships demonstrate how much discretion the director has in determining the Bureau's priorities and partnerships. Patel says those relationships are narrowly focused and carefully vetted, while critics worry that cooperation with adversarial governments could create counterintelligence risks. That makes Blumenthal's broader concern about institutional independence especially relevant. The FBI director has to make decisions involving politically powerful people, foreign governments, criminal organizations, and the president's own administration. The question is whether those decisions will be driven primarily by evidence and law, or by political loyalty and pressure. Blumenthal believed Patel's answers during the confirmation hearing did not provide enough reassurance. Patel believed his record demonstrated the opposite, that he would protect the Bureau from political weaponization and apply the law equally. The J6 prison choir controversy remains a significant part of that debate because it forces the question beyond political slogans. It asks whether Patel's actions demonstrate the judgment necessary to lead an institution whose credibility depends on careful, impartial law enforcement. Ultimately, Blumenthal's confrontation was not simply about a song, January 6th, or individual defendants. It was about trust. Can the American public trust the FBI director to protect agents from political retaliation, enforce the law without favoritism, and maintain the Bureau's independence, even when the cases involve the president, his allies, or people Patel himself has previously supported? Patel said he would. Blumenthal wasn't convinced. And that remains the central question surrounding this exchange. When political pressure reaches the FBI, will its director protect the institution first, or the people in power?